Let's turn now to CBS News campaign reporter and attorney Katrina Kaufman. She is outside the courthouse and she has been covering jury selection. So, Katrina, now that there is a full jury, does anything else need to happen before the trial begins?
Hi, Elaine. Yes, so we finally have a full jury. They just picked the final 5 alternates, and they have all been sworn in now. But there's still one more thing to do today, which is called a Sandoval hearing. And this is when both sides are going to talk about what could be brought up if Trump gets on the stand. The prosecution had released a filing the other day that said they want to bring up a lot of his prior bad acts and misconduct, such as things related to the E. Jean Carroll trial, his fraud case, that he was not found to be credible on the stand, and he took the stand in that case, among many other things. So that will be debated before the judge, and then it will give Trump a better sense of what he might be impeached with or approached with on the stand if he decides to, in fact, testify in this case.
So, in terms of a time frame, Monday for opening statements then?
Yes, Monday morning we are expecting opening statements to start at 9:30, and that's when both sides are going to present their opening views of this case to this jury of 12 that we just seated.
All right, Katrina, if you'll stay with us, let's bring in our Jessica Levinson, who is joining us as well with some analysis. She's a CBS News legal contributor and professor at Loyola Law School. So, Jessica, now that there is a full jury, I wonder if you could just give us a sense of the kind of person that both sides were really looking for here, because we were talking a moment ago about the challenges of trying to find someone who could be impartial with such a high-profile case like this.
Such a high-profile case, and this really will, I think, be an education for all of us that we're not looking for jurors who don't have a view of the former president one way or another, or who are entirely apolitical. We're looking for jurors who know what their job is, which is to put aside any personal views they have, look at the evidence presented to them, look at the jury instructions, the applicable law, and make a determination. And so for the prosecution, maybe they're looking at people who respect authority, who are going to be able to follow this fairly, frankly, complicated case through every hurdle that the prosecution has to pass here, through explaining that these are, in fact, according to the prosecution, falsified business records, and that they were falsified in order to commit or conceal another crime, and then talk the jurors through what that crime is. I think for the defense, you really want people who will question along the way. Are you sure? Did you prove that one point up? Is every link in the chain fully closed here? Because what the defense is looking for, and I know we've said it again, but for the defense, a win is one juror who says, I don't think you proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. That juror can think 50.01%. I think the former president committed crimes, but you're looking for that juror, if you're the defense, to say, not by the highest threshold that we have in our legal system, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think that's basically what we're looking for.
And Jessica, so given the complexity and what you just laid out, what can we expect from opening statements? And what kind of defense can we expect to hear from Donald Trump's attorneys?
So for opening statements, I think the prosecution would do well to tell a very consistent and clear story that says, actually, the case is not that complicated. The defense is going to try and say that this is really just a case that doesn't even belong in criminal court at all, that the former president wasn't involved, or that he didn't form the criminal intent here, and that we're going to have to rely solely on Michael Cohen. And I think for the prosecution, what they're going to have to say is, believe your eyes, believe your ears, look at those payments, look at the timing of those payments, look at the amount of the payments, and then look at why you think they were made and the level of knowledge and intent that the former president had. I think that the prosecution really needs to give a step-by-step roadmap for the jurors to say, we're going to start here, and then we'll lead you this way, then we turn right, then we turn left, et cetera. But to preview for them, there's a consistent story here, and it is absolutely provable. For the defense, very different. They just have to knock down a few of those building blocks in the house that the prosecution is going to try and make. The defense is just going to try and say that There's weakness in the joints of these arguments. Can you believe Michael Cohen? This isn't actually about the former president. It's about a political prosecution. And of course, the former president didn't form a criminal intent to violate another law. Very different approaches to obviously the same set of facts and laws.
But Katrina, the prosecution laid out the information it plans to bring up if Donald Trump takes the stand. Would testifying be to his advantage? Is it ever a good move for a defendant?
I mean, I think that testifying can be a good move for a defendant. I think in Donald Trump's case, it is not. I think that he has been shown to be unruly on the stand, to not actually answer the questions that were asked of him. At the civil fraud trial, the judge was very frustrated about the way he tried to politicize on the stand, the way he wasn't actually asking the direct question that was asked of him. And ultimately, he really found his testimony to be not credible. And when I was at the E. Jean Carroll trial, the judge was so concerned about his testimony that he limited it to just a few questions and only yes or no answers. He really curtailed it because he was concerned about Trump just saying whatever he wanted to. And he really wanted to be careful about what was said in front of this jury.
All right. Katrina Kaufman, Jessica Levinson, thanks to you both. Really appreciate your insight and reporting.